It was in his bureau. I reckon it'll fetch us enough cash for a good used auto voiture and a little left over besides.
Whew. You got some light fingers, Everett. Gopher.
You stole from my kin.
Who was fixing to betray us.
You didn't know that at the time.
So I borrowed it till I did know.
That don't make no sense.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another week of Muskies on Tap. I'm your host, Gus Manti. We got three other co-hosts on here tonight. I will introduce them. We got none other than my brother, Max. We got Brian on the line as well, and our special guest, Clayton Spiess. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Good. No complaints here. A little sad after the weekend. I know I talked a lot of shit after the first Packer game of the season when we whooped up on the Bears, but things have unfortunately taken quite the turn for our squad here in Wisconsin. I'm sure all of our Illinois listeners and Minnesota listeners are probably really happy to hear my sad tone on the future of the Packers. Not exactly sure what's going on over there in Green Bay. Hoping to get some insider scoop from our resident Green Bay resident over there with Brian. But yeah, it's a good weekend. Still not much fishing for me lately, but that's about to change. Luckily, weather has been nice to us ish so far, and looks like it's going to keep everything open. So the next few weekends will be dedicated to chasing a late fall giant in the northern Wisconsin area, and for that I am very excited for.
Brian, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great as well. Like Max said, Packers just not even worth watching anymore this year. Can't wait to watch them in the draft, though. That's always an event. Shout out the Musky Hunks crew. Their Steelers put it to us a little bit.
Right.
Felt like we were watching the toilet bowl, but hey, Steelers might make the playoffs, so can't bang them too much. But yeah, excited to chop it up a little bit, get a little current condition check from Gus as we'll be up there this weekend. And yeah, excited to hear from Clayton here soon, how his season went and all the exciting things that went down for him. Clayton, how are you tonight?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on again.
Of
Absolutely.
course.
Becoming a regular.
Yeah,
What appearance is this? 3?
I think so. Yep.
I love it. Is that now edging out the guru for most appearances on the Muskies on Tap podcast, or is it tied? I can't remember.
Tied, I'm pretty sure.
Yep,
Tied.
Yeah.
Quite the duel.
Battle Royale.
Well, I'll start it off with this. I mean, we got, a lot of fun things to unpack here with Clayton, but you guys just heard from him doing a little recap on the PMTT championship where him and his partner Nick took third place. But we really didn't get a good dive in on how Clayton's guiding season went. He was doing it, mostly full time, I would say, this summer with Thistle Do Outdoors. And I guess my opening question would be, how did the overall season go for you guiding wise? And then B, what do you think the highlight was from this summer/fall?
Ooh. Well, man, that's the highlight is a tough question, but overall the season was great for guiding. It was as busy as I kind of had expected it to be for the first year trying to go full time and advertising it. Took out a lot of people, got a lot of first fish. I know Gus talked about it in a couple of the previous pods that, there's nothing better than, having people get their first muskie. And man, I'll tell you what, that is pretty awesome. That's kind of what drives me to do it as well. And loving having those new faces out there and teaching people a little something, whatever I can. But pretty successful. There were not many trips we didn't catch fish. Usually multiple fish throughout the summer. As fall kind of wore on, things have tapered off for me. But I'm sure you heard, I've got a new boat now, and I had to get a real job to kind of fill in between the guide jobs. So my time on the water has been cut down quite a bit right now.
Well, okay, so we can kind of revisit the highlight then, maybe give you a few seconds to think on it. What went into the decision of getting the new rig? Because I loved seeing you scream around in your old boat. That thing, that thing flew. I was on the back end of seeing you fly by us a few different times. So be curious to kind of hear, how that all went down and what went into that decision.
Well, I got to be honest. The main decision was the fact that hammer keeps falling down in my boat every time we hook a fish. So, it got kind of dangerous at times. So I needed something with a little more room for the poor guy.
That's his partner, for all those that don't know, his tournament partner, who has definitely had a few tumbles in the boat from what it sounds like.
Yeah, stumble guy.
Has he fallen in?
No, hasn't fallen in yet. Been close. Well, he hasn't fallen out of my boat yet. I just about tackled him out of it the other day. But that's another story. No, but for real, the bass boat is awesome for fishing out of. And that Triton was really good to me. Caught a ton of fish on it. Had a very good send-off, which probably was the highlight. We can get into that in a little bit. But as far as hauling musky gear around all the time, fully tournament loaded, guiding with older people or people that aren't necessarily real familiar in boats and, don't have their sea legs, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get down inside that council area and sit down. There's not a lot of room for, multiple people to sit in there. It's kind of a 2-person, 3 max type of boat. And if I'm going to go and do this guiding, continue with it, which I plan to do, I needed something that was going to accommodate my guests a little bit more.
Gotcha. So it sounds like you've been having to work a little bit more this fall to kind of compensate for the new purchase. So it sounds like you haven't gotten out a bunch, but on the times that you have gotten out, have you found some success here this fall?
We did in October, especially kind of earlier in the month, early to mid part of the month, we were doing really well. A lot of our bites were, strange as it is, like right at dark or right after dark. And whether or not that was moon or not, it didn't really seem to matter, but there was always a window. If nothing was going on during the day, stick it out till dark and you're going to get a bite. But the trolling bite has just been absolutely horrible for me. And maybe it's just my time on the water timing or lake choice. I'm not really sure, but been doing way better casting and with suckers than with trolling. And generally at this time of year, we're trolling and, we can go out and get multiple fish a day. And it's just, I'm not even finding the fish in most of the spots that they used to be. So it's time to, I guess, find some new patterns, and kind of break away from the stuff that used to work.
So I'm curious this fall, what do you think your sucker conversion rate is? If you have one come up and look at it, how often are they eating your sucker?
Oh man. It's probably like 30 to 40%. And then hook up.
Good.
Yeah. we were like 1 for 50 that one weekend.
That's crazy. I haven't seen nearly as many as it sounds like as you guys were, especially that one weekend. But the ones that we're seeing, I've spent as much as an hour on a fish to get it to bite. And there's a few things that we kind of figured out to get it to bite, actually. Some things that we were doing to trigger fish, which helped a lot, helped us get those bites and convert them. But we'd have fish following for like an hour. And finally, we just start doing some dumb stuff. And it ended up working out for us.
Are you hiding this dumb stuff from us? Because we're looking for all the tips we can get.
Oh, yeah. You want to know? I know.
Definitely want to know this.
We're all perked up right now like, oh, wow.
Let me write this down. One thing that seemed to help was if you took the fish out to the deepest water you possibly could, just break away from the break line, turn and burn out and drive straight out. And then you get them out over that water. And that seemed to help. And if they were still being a pain in the butt, I actually just start dropping that sucker as fast as I could in the column. And then if the fish followed it down, that was usually good. Stop it and bring it right back, kind of almost play the chase game with like with lake trout.
Interesting.
That definitely seemed to help to change the height of the bait in the water on a couple different occasions.
So you're actually interacting with these fish. Are you looking at them on live scope or using your side imaging to kind of gauge that?
Yeah, well, obviously with the Mega Live, we're able to watch them in real time. As far as keeping an eye on them, I use the 360 and the live together, side imaging. They all kind of help each other out. Sometimes I don't see them on one where I'll see them on the other. The 360, you can track them definitely easier than grabbing hold of a live pole and start spinning it, because that's constantly rotating. The only problem is it's a little delayed, so they're not necessarily right where you see them, or sometimes it just takes a while to update. But I think between like all three, I don't ever rely on just one of them, but using all three systems definitely I can keep track of fish a little bit better that way.
Gotcha. And so this fall time, are you targeting mostly, lakes with a Cisco base, or, are you kind of going back to the traditional like perch and sucker and shiner type base lakes? Or are you switching it up? Do you have one that you prefer over the other this time of year?
I've been doing both, a lot of both. And now at this point, I'm pretty much ready to just head to the Cisco lakes and, just chase trophies, because the bites are few and far between. And, I've gotten enough of those mid-range fish, although, just because you go to a Cisco lake doesn't mean you're going to catch a giant, but, the chances for getting giants seem to be a little bit better when you're out there in those Ciscos. So that'll be my primary focus going forward.
Why do you think I know there's probably, it's probably more common sense, but I'd just be curious to hear your thoughts. Why do you think like the bite windows are so much tighter in the fall compared to summer? Do you think it's just temperature related more than anything?
I wish I knew. I don't know.
Doesn't their metabolism slow down and they don't expel a ton of energy?
Yeah, but you got to think, so kind of what we always say to each other, Nick and I, when we're fishing tournaments and stuff, is like somewhere on the body of water that we're fishing, or somewhere out there's a musky being caught probably just about at any given time.
Right.
So, I don't really know like why, most of the time I always thought it was moons, or sunrise, sunset or something like that. Or, could be barometer change, but like sometimes it seems like there's absolutely nothing happening that would cause a window to start, and all of a sudden they just decide they're going to feed. I don't really know why they're tight.
I asked the question because like where it confuses me a little bit is like we've seen some just ridiculously fat fish, in the fall from our catches, from other people's, sending in pictures and whatever. And it's just like, okay, this fish has just been chowing on either suckers or perch or Cisco's. Seems like pretty consistently here. They're completely beefed up, but yet the windows are much tighter, but yet the fish are way fatter. So it's like, I don't really understand.
You gotta, I don't know if you think about it much, but you gotta take into consideration the egg development in the females too. A lot of that weight that you see they're bloating is starting to be the spawn that's, developing, and they grow substantially towards the end of the year, and then through winter. And, everyone says that, oh, the fish are putting on the feed bag right now, but, like Brian was saying, their metabolism is slowing down, and, they're not necessarily as active in feeding as often, and as much as normal. I think their process slows down. They're actually looking for more of a larger presentation, and that's why we use bigger baits in the fall, and big suckers. And if you can get your hands on a Cisco to use for a live bait or something like that, big ones, these fish aren't necessarily putting on the feed bag so much as they are conserving energy, knowing that they have to continue developing for the spring through the winter when it's super cold in the water. So more so, I think it's just the development of the eggs, really, that, you'll catch fish and you'll see the big bulge in them from a giant, bait or something fish that they ate, so that, is also part of it. But I think a big part of it is actually the spawn that's developing in those females.
That makes sense. Well,
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I really knew that. I mean, I definitely agreed with you on all the slower metabolism, and maybe that's why the bite windows are so tight or whatnot. But it was really interesting this past November. Really, there has not been as much activity on Moon as I've been able to predict. It's like usually it's like 2 windows per day ish, depending on the weather. And more so than not, it's either a very predictable weather, like incoming flurries, a wind shift, or like late afternoon. I don't know. It's like somewhere between 1 and 3, like something's going to start. It didn't matter if there's moon. Somewhere at that peak warmth of the day pretty much seemed to be kind of the ticket lately. And that's
You know,
the only prediction I have.
this fall's been really weird too, and I've talked about it with a few people, like how we had warm weather and then it got really cold and we went right into like a turnover, but it was kind of delayed and we were stuck in like 53, 51 degrees for a long time, like a couple weeks.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
then it hit cold again, and it also now it dropped into low 40s. And I don't know what I think these fish are super scattered. Generally, they, after turnover is predictable, they push out deep, the breaks and everything else. I don't know what their deal is, but I feel like a lot of fish aren't even out there. I'm still, when we're marking fish, a lot of them are up on the edge of the weeds yet. If not, they're in there.
Yeah, I know just this past week with water temps. Oh man, I think they were well below 45. Well, there was one day I was taking out on a lake and I was looking in the weeds sub 5 feet, really, really thick weeds, and there was panfish everywhere. I was like, okay. It was like bright and sunny out. And then just this past weekend, the one fish we got one day after having a bunch of suckers looking at, a bunch of muskies looking at the suckers in slightly deeper water. We pushed in shallow and got one in like, I don't know, probably somewhere between 3 and 5 feet of water on a clearer lake. And I was just like, they are absolutely everywhere. I mean, yeah, weed edge fish were definitely still around, and it didn't even, I mean, there were I found some green weeds, but I probably should have been searching for them more, like I feel like once it was post turnover, I kind of just stopped that search of looking for the green weeds, but there are definitely fish shallow and still are.
Yeah,
right
we
now.
kept after turnover for sure throughout the rest of October. We kept checking weeds, and anytime we found the good green ones, we would pound them because there's still the bait's still in there, and those muskies were still up shallow. And I don't know. I think some of them still are shallow right now. It's super weird. Maybe there always is. I don't know if anybody else has any experience in that or not, but
No, I mean, the only thing that I got there is just incidental winter catches, going for pike with, small little 2-3 inch shiners, muskies eating them in 4 to 6 feet, and cabbage, in the dead middle of winter. It's like, well, then why couldn't you catch them there in November or, late October or something like that? So
Didn't you or Max catch one like mid-November, like up by a dock or something in like 2 feet of water?
yeah, that was that was late October, but I think that year the lake's already turned over, right? Wasn't that late October, Max, or was that November?
yeah, it was either the last few days of October or early November. Just throwing a bulldog for giggles up near. We were just kind of dragging. We were on a shallower system, and we were dragging, suckers in that like 10 to 12 feet of water, which was deep relative in that lake. And it was warm enough where I was bored, and I was just casting a bulldog, not really expecting much to happen. If anything, maybe pull one off the weeds and bring it to the sucker. And I threw it past the dock, and it got rocked like first or second pump. And that was for that lake was a very large fish. Unfortunately, didn't land it, but we got to see it. And have frequented that spot a multitude of times and never contacted her again. Unfortunately, I don't know if she was just up there sunbathing one day and she was on the move, but she was never to be found again, unfortunately. So, one thing I want to go back to, you kind of mentioned, you were throwing some baits, Clayton. This goes to you and Gus. I know, Gus, you've kind of stumbled across a new favorite. Seems like you kind of gravitate towards a favorite bait every season. So I'm kind of curious to hear this. Hopefully you'll be willing to share, but I'll start with Clayton. I'm assuming fall time, you guys are throwing Medusas, you're throwing your Bulldogs. Outside of that, are you throwing much else, or you just kind of stick to the big rubber program? Are you doing anything to mix it up?
Well, I've had a really good year this year on Dive Rise, maybe because I was throwing it more. It seems like I've been able to get fish on it throughout the whole year and into fall. And Nick gave me a double weight mega bar fighter, and yeah, I've been hell bent on trying to get a fish on that thing. Plus, I got a 12-inch Navin at the show, which I was like, I am throwing these baits this fall, and I'm going to catch fish on them. Now, I've missed some fish and lost a big one in Canada on that double mag or whatever. We actually had I had some buddies from Green Bay up, and I think they had a super mega bar fighter.
How big is that?
Thing looks like a 4x4 going through the water.
Is it bigger than a Frankenstuik?
Oh, it's huge. It's
Probably
definitely
weighs more.
heavier and bigger around. Yeah.
Oh man, don't throw that thing by any cribs or ropes that are attached to the bottom of the lake.
No, we stayed. We were out in pretty deep water when we were using that. But that thing absolutely just stayed in place. It did not rise when he pulled it. Like, he could get that thing walking, like walk the dog, and then when he stopped, it just kind of hovered there, did that beautiful belly roll. And I think I need to add one more heavier weight to my double mag to get it to hover a little more. Mine rose a little bit more than his does, but that thing just walks beautifully. And we've moved a pile of fish on him, just trying to get him to hook up. I don't know what the deal is, but I haven't caught any on it yet.
Sounds like it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
If you got confidence in the bait, just keep throwing it.
Yeah.
It'll give.
Definitely.
It'll give at one point.
Yeah, Gus, that reminds me, not to cut you off before you answer the question, but that reminds me when you got the boys from Red October sent to you a nice care package of new tubes, and there was one specific one in the box that you pulled out and you were like, oh, this thing is beautiful. And that was on like Thursday night. And you're like, I'm throwing this thing all weekend. You put it on, I think on Friday or whatever. And it was just like, it was dancing perfectly in the water. And you're like, oh my God, this thing looks so good. I got to throw it. You threw it all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then it didn't get eaten until Sunday. But it's just the pure persistence of just continuing to throw that bait. And then it all of a sudden got like super hot for another, like it was like, and then you were just sticking fish on it daily. That thing was just shredded by the end of the week.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, it's caught some dandies this fall, that particular tube. I was no blading it starting early October, and that definitely seemed to be the ticket for a few of those days. And yep, for the first bite on that tube, I was pretty stubborn. I maybe changed once all weekend. I pretty much threw the same bait, looked at the same bait all weekend. Which
so
I've never
what are you
really done.
throwing, Gus, these days? I know that you just got off of 3 consecutive days of guiding, and it sounds like fish were put in the net each and every single day.
Yeah, super successful. Majority of them were actually trolling. I was going to comment before about the trolling stuff, Clayton. I'm in the exact same boat. Through October, the only good trolling pattern that I've been on is like this past week. Prior to that, it's been pretty rough. I think it was just like a couple, maybe like one lost fish, but for the time that was put in, it just wasn't quite there. And then now I think it's picking back up. It seems like they're really reacting. I mean, we're getting trolling fish on the same passes and same days as putting out suckers during moons on, A1 spots and not getting anything, and then rolling through with the trolling bait and then getting one. So for some reason they're liking the big plastic baits going right by their face at the same speed as opposed to a live sucker. So, but I guess if you can get away with that,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
it's clean living right there. I love
Cheaper
trolling.
option.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
as
same.
for casting, it's mainly been rubber. I've tried to throw some jerk bait still here and there, but mainly I've been having clients throw rubber, and mainly it's swimming dog is still good. That one seems to do really well, especially on Cisco based bodies of water, and the bulldog or Medusa, hopping that thing around and getting it to nosedive, and I think those are probably the best baits, and the tube. I already kind of talked about the tube.
Did you throw our new present that we all three of us pitched in on today at all by chance?
No, I'm gonna throw it this week though. That bait ain't no
You're really gonna
secret.
break that in without us?
Yeah, dude, I have to. I gotta get the I gotta, pull on the rubber tail a little bit and kind of get it walking a little better.
Yeah, tug on the old rope.
Yeah,
Max, you are you gonna be happy or sad if you get up there and the thing's got a big tooth mark in it?
Well, I think Gus needs to even tell people what it is. We kind of glossed over that part.
I know. That's what I was just about to say. For the listeners that don't know what the hell we're even talking about, we're talking about this like it's something brand new. I know plenty of people in Minnesota and Canada have been throwing it. That's just us Wisconsin boys, shy away from the big baits. But we invested in a monster swimming dog, and that thing is a unit.
Oh.
It's so big. And
how many inches is that thing?
16 or 17 or something like that. And it's like, I think it weighs more than a pounder, if I'm not mistaken. So I did not get to throw it yet.
It is more.
Yeah, it's like a pound and a half or something like that. And
jeez,
I'll throw it tomorrow for sure. I want to check it out. I was going to this.
Don't lose that $70 tail on a pike.
Yeah, I gotta be careful. I'm gonna go make sure I go to the middle of the lake and say out loud as I cast, ain't no way there's a fish out here.
God, if that thing gets bit off by a pike, we'll be going to Jeff Widman at TRO on our knees.
Yeah.
Begging for a replacement or we should have taken out some warranty or something on that bait. It was like back this was like I think last summer. It was Gus's birthday, and at this time we didn't have any matlocks or headlocks, and Gus was always talking about getting one. And so for his birthday I went invested into I think it was a 12-inch Cisco pattern matlock, and gave it to him for his birthday. And we go out on the lake that afternoon, start running it. 20 minutes later, just put it in the face of a crib, never to be seen again.
Come on. No.
Yeah, first day ever with the supernatural bait gone.
Pretty much just took $100 bill and lit it on fire.
Sure, that thing still looks good down there though. Must be checking it out every day.
Prior to getting the bait removal from Cave Run this spring, and I was also going off of some incorrect depth charts. I thought it was running at 8, and it probably was running at like 13 feet down, and just maybe
buried
14,
in a crib.
Just buried it. Oh,
Can you give me the GPS coordinates of where that is, and maybe I can try and snag it?
I know kind of where it is.
Man.
Yeah. Oh, that was hilarious. Yeah, no, I'm excited to throw that big old monster swimming dog. I'm curious to see how it looks, and also if it's trollable. Be really interested to see if it can sustain, going down there and rolling around. I'd be curious.
Yeah, I think we should definitely try trolling it. I also was gonna say it might turn out to be, at least for around here, because some of the fish here might be like, what the hell is that? Why is moving through the water? It might be just a fish mover, and that could be beneficial for sucker eaters or castbacks with a not so ginormous lure.
With the
What color pattern did you get it in?
Cisco. UV blue Cisco.
I know a couple lakes you could probably get that thing eaten.
Oh,
And I'm sure I know you fished them too. So
Yep, and I'm thinking of one that we haven't been to yet, and it's the one that you were just trolling at the other day.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
that.
Mm.
Yeah. The big
it's got some big
forage.
Cisco's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So Clayton, maybe this fall. I mean, I guess if you've caught a giant this fall, feel free to fill us in. But has there been any other past kind of big fall fat fish that you can kind of remember back on?
Honestly, I haven't even fished too much in the fall until recently, like the last 2 or 3 years. When I started fall fishing, I figured I'd give this whole sucker fishing a try, and I bought like 5 of them, and they weren't nearly as expensive as they are now. But I went out and I fished for a whole week straight, and I never got a bite, but everything I caught was casting, and follows never went to suckers. So I took one of them and I hit it with a billy club on the head and threw it to an eagle. And then I went back to the boat landing and I got my shotgun out and I threw them up in the air and dusted them with the shotgun, the last 3, and put the boat away and went duck hunting and deer hunting for the rest of the fall.
What a first
was-
sucker experience.
Oh, those poor suckers.
It'd be a bad life. It'd be a bad life.
You know, I got so much enjoyment out of doing that after being really, really mad. I'm sorry. I'm probably a bad person.
Oh, no.
We're gonna have PETA emailing us here pretty quick.
Yeah.
I've been there, man. After our musky bender weekend, I was damn near ready to do the same after seeing all those fish come up and just look at them. And it's like, I thought you guys like to eat these. I'm kind of confused as to what's the problem here. Like spending, $80 at the bait shop every morning only for us to just see them on a video game console. Frustrating. Tell you what.
That's like driving a Matlock into a crib and never seen it
almost
again.
like it.
Damn near. All right, should we dive into a few Q&A questions because they always go a lot longer than typical. I didn't get as many questions as I thought we were going to get, but we got some good ones here to kind of discuss. This one I think we're going to start out with just because we've talked about it in every podcast since Brian brought it up, but our first question comes from Rowan Stam. Gus, is that how you pronounce his last name?
I think it's Stam.
If you guys want to follow somebody who puts some nice fish in the boat, check out Rowan's page. It's Rowan_Stam, STAMM. He's a guide. We met him at the PMTT championship. Actually, he was up fishing around that area on the same weekend. He's a great dude. So I know he guide kind of over by like the Hayward area typically, or just kind of all over Western.
I think
Wisconsin.
so. Yeah. And I know he does a bunch of river fishing. That's mainly what he I think specializes in, and a little bit of
he's
fly
been putting
fishing too.
He's been putting some big fish in the boat this fall. Every time I see his Instagram story, it's like
I just talked to him, and I think just yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, I can't remember, but he said he's got the number of like a 35-40 pound river giant right now that he's going to be trying to get, that he just raised the other day.
We wish you the best of luck, Rowan. Well, this question, I guess anyone can answer it if they want, but he was wondering, do you prefer Wranglers or Dickies, jeans, or jorts when you are sleeping, Brian?
Oh, anybody can answer that?
Anybody can
just
answer
you.
that, though.
I think I've said it before, Wranglers. Even though I don't know, I'm probably a Levi guy if I look in the closet, but
Okay.
yeah.
501s, a little baggier.
Yeah. Get some room to breathe in there while I'm sleeping.
Yeah. I mean, you're a little heftier these days. I don't think you can rock those 5'11 skinny jeans like you used to in high school.
Yeah, no, those are the glory days, man. I'm out of those. I'm in the boot cuts.
All right. I'm guessing no one else has anything there, so we'll move on.
I haven't seen Brian sleeping before, so I guess I have no comment.
I hope not.
No.
Brian falls asleep about as fast as you do, Clay, and I still couldn't get over that when we were up there and Hayward for the championship. We'd go to bed at like 9:15, and I think I'd go upstairs 3 minutes after you, and you'd already be snoring, passed out. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how?
Last night I got home here. What the heck? And sat down on the couch, and it was like 5 minutes to 7. Or what time did the game start last night? Like 7:30 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so 7:25, and I'm on my phone. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna close my eyes for a second. I got 5 minutes before the game starts, and I woke up.
5-minute power nap.
Yeah, I woke up at midnight and shut the TV off and went to bed.
Well, you missed it ended up being an okay game, but it was pretty brutal to watch. So you didn't miss much. But yeah, I was like, I don't know if I was more just impressed or confused at how fast you passed out on. I just couldn't believe it. I was so jealous. All right, so this question's actually for you, Clayton. It comes from Jack Fish 21. He's wondering, Clayton, when did you get into musky fishing and how has it progressed? And I'd be curious to hear this too, because I don't even know if I really know specifically your origin musky story.
Yeah. So my uncle, on my mom's side of the family, so my mom's brother, used to vacation up here. I'm born and raised in Eagle River, and I've lived up here pretty much my whole life, besides like a year and a half when I moved away for some work. And so he used to come up with my cousin, and it's basically as soon as I was old enough to hold a rod, I have it hanging up on the wall now, but my grandpa, my uncle, and my cousin, and then my uncle's best friend and his son. So there's 3 of us that are all the same age as boys or whatever. I would say, I guess when we were maybe 8 years old, we started chucking baits with the old split bamboo rods and like the old school. I don't even know if that, Shimano reels that I don't even know if there was a gear ratio on them back then, spooled with some sort of mono and snapping baits off all the time or whatever. But we just fish and fish and fish until they made us stop or whatever. We were in some old boats, nothing, no fancy electronics, nothing. But my grandpa, this was back when the size limit was like 32, and before I knew anything about catch and release. And my grandpa said, don't you dare put one of those back if it's over 32. So we kept, back in the day, we kept every single one, which wasn't that many. Now I know people are going to freak, but maybe like if we kept between, the 2 boats or whatever that would go out fishing a few times a summer, if we kept 5 between everybody, that was a lot. Like,
Sure.
We'd catch a few here and there. And so that was all I did really, was with them until I would say probably high school. Once I was able to start driving, I could go out and fish, by myself, or, and made some friends that fished also, and kind of learned about, Muskies Inc. and catch and release and the leagues up here and stuff. And basically joined the Muskie League and started fishing that, and started fishing more for fun and stuff. Progressed into finally getting my own first boat, which is the boat, that Triton. I had that for 13 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And just kept spending as much time as we possibly could on the water. And the more comfortable we got, the more fish we caught. Then we started dabbling in tournaments and, just kept moving on through.
What was the first tournament you ever did?
It was the spring. I think probably a spring classic. And I would really have to look. It's probably like 2008 or something like that. I didn't even have my boat yet, but my buddy had a pretty nice, actually a Triton 16.5 foot. Mine's an 18.5. But once he got that, we started doing a couple tournaments out of it. I did catch a fish in the first tournament ever, but we didn't place in it.
Gotcha. I've always been interested to hear. I mean, yeah, you've been fishing tournaments for a while, and just kind of a cool deal. And I know the first time you were on, we've picked up a few more listeners since then, but I know your family's got a pretty storied past in the Eagle River area. I don't know if we want to go down too much into a rabbit hole, but what was it? Your grandpa who owned a lodge up here, and
My great grandpa, started
great-grandpa?
off. Yep. So they're from Madison, and they ended up getting a resort on a lake up here, one of the first ever resorts. And my great grandpa was a guide, and they used to take out, and then my grandpa was too, but they used to take out a bunch of the Dillinger clan. And I think we might have talked about that before, which is pretty cool. And Whitey ended up buying it, basically forcing my grandpa into selling the resort because he liked it so much. They wanted to keep it for themselves. And he's like, we'd like you to keep taking us out fishing, but we're going to own this. We're going to give you this much money for it. And
No negotiations.
No negotiations. No, here's a little chunk of property you can build yourself or park a little trailer or whatever you want to do over there, tent it out. But from this day on, this is now our resort, and
I couldn't even imagine the pressure that your great grandpa faced as a guide taking those types of dudes out fishing.
I wonder if I never really asked him if he knew like what their
deal was
for sure. Maybe he didn't even ask questions, maybe he did know and just
smart guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do. I'd be like, whatever,
the better.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sounds good.
Yes.
They're tipping well, and whatever.
That's all
Sounds
you
like,
want.
it sounds like they were really nice, like and from what I've heard from stories from other people, the more people I tell about this, the more people that have had family that had, encounters with this group of people, and, majority of them were super nice, and they treated everybody really nice up here. And, they tipped people very well, and, they just did all their other shady stuff down
Elsewhere.
south, and then came up here and hid, and were nice to try and, blend in, I guess.
God, that's so interesting.
Mhm.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being out on the boat and have a guy tell you, well, man, we love it up here so much. We're gonna buy your place from you. And so, well, it's not really for
out
sale. Well, it is for sale now. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. All right. Well, a little simpler question here. And I think we've probably touched on this one before, but we'll answer him if this individual hasn't gotten it. But this one's from Phil Dante. He's asking Clayton and Gus, do you guys prefer fluorocarbon leaders or wire leaders, and why?
I usually just prefer wire. I started out using a good amount of fluorocarbon, and I think it's totally fine for something like a bucktail, but I don't know. I've just seen too many baits coming in where that fish has T-boned it close to the head or just eaten it head first, and there's a little bit of leader in their mouth, and all I want in front of that bait is wire, because that's your last little point of connection to the bait. So I want to make sure that it doesn't fail, So like if I use a straight wire leader and it's kinked up a lot, I'll replace it. And if I'm using a multi-strand wire and I see one little fray in it, it's done, and I'm on to the next one.
Yeah. That's a good question. And it's actually changed a lot for me over the last couple of years. I was a big time fluorocarbon, pretty much with everything except for glide baits and dive rides. I'd use a single strand wire leader for those. And we would get bit off a lot with rubber baits. And finally, I just decided that enough was enough. I'm tired of it. And now, as of last year, I run all 49 strand wire for rubber. Basically, I've eliminated fluorocarbon from everything except for trolling. I still use fluorocarbon for trolling, and single strand now wire for bucktails. Although, like Gus said, I think the fluorocarbon's fine. You typically, very rarely do you get hit up high on a bucktail. They usually come up from behind and eat it or T-bone it. And I think actually it's probably pike that more will hit blades and never get hooks. Like a lot of fish that you might miss, you get a smack out far out in a cast if it's a lake with pike in it. I think a lot of times if it is a muskie, it's a small one, but pike will go after those blades before they do. But I switched to single strand wire because I was running a much shorter leader, and so I could do bigger figure eights at the time. And at that time, I was only using like an 8.5 foot rod probably. And now that I'm up to 9.5, 10 for all my bucktails, I probably could go back to a fluorocarbon, but I don't have any problems with the wire, so I'm just going to stick to it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. All right, Brian, you're gonna have to lead this one off here.
I saw you grinning during Clayton's answer there. I knew something was coming.
No, it's from our boy poorly made
here
musky
we go.
memes. Shout out.
Shout out.
This one actually skews a little negative, and I kind of dig it. And I'll be curious. This is going to be for all four of us, so we're gonna have a four-person answer here. And if you guys need some time to think, we got all the time in the world tonight. But he asks, "What's your least favorite aspect of musky fishing?" I know it's hard because musky fishing is the freaking best, and there's not very many things that.
There's. It. I guess.
But what's your least favorite thing, Brad?
Can I get the obvious one out of the way, and then we can maybe dive into some more? I mean, obviously, it'd be going a full day without catching a damn fish, but other than that,
what do you mean? It's the freaking best, man.
Yeah, it's so much fun going 12 hours and not hooking anything.
Somebody's got to leave that off. I got to think.
Okay, I'll lead it off. And if I had more time, I probably would think of other things. Because like the first thing that popped into my head was like, just trying to make snack decisions at 6 a.m. that you're going to be hungry for at like 1 p.m. It feels like we never really get a good complement of snacks on the boat. But
hey, whoa.
I mean, yeah, snack god Brian sometimes comes in clutch, but so this is just personal for me because I've had some pretty rough encounters doing this. But my least favorite thing about musky fishing, and I know it comes after one of the best things of musky fishing, but my least favorite thing is unhooking a fish. I absolutely despise it. And Gus typically does it for me. I got PTSD from many encounters last summer where I could not stop slicing my hand open. It felt like
too.
I mean, yeah, but those were bad ones. Like one, obviously I needed stitches. The other one was a wound that it's barely now healed. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it felt like that cut. It was on under my nail on a piece of my thumb that I use on my right hand so consistently where it just hurt doing anything, like brushing my teeth. It hurt, whatever, like anytime I held anything, it was just like pain constantly. But I went through a run last year where it was like, if I had a fish in the net, it was like a 90% chance that hook was finding somewhere inside my skin. And I just got so pissed. Whether it was a pike, muskie, bass, didn't matter. That hook was finding a way to cut me up some way, somehow. I was coming out of there with blood. I just probably need to be more patient and a little bit more diligent, but you know me, I just kind of get so excited that want to get the thing out and take the picture and get it back in the water that I just kind of don't pay attention enough. And this year it's been better, but I think that's honestly been because Gus, you kind of go into full guide mode sometimes. And like, before I can even get the pliers out, you're already down there, taking the hooks out for me. And I'm all right. Hey, that's all good with me. Do your thing. So yeah, that would probably be my least favorite thing is taking those damn hooks out. Just feel like there's a lot of ways for it to go wrong.
I think, man, I probably have another thing if I thought on it a lot longer, but one of the first things that came to my mind was the fact that we have all these baits. We have so many really, really pretty paint jobs on some of the baits and really, really cool colors. And these dumb muskies decide to eat just some of the dumbest colors sometimes.
That is the
And
worst.
And it's turned into making them have brown as my favorite color. All colors. I love brown baits. Like if I could just have an all brown bait, I'd be very happy. And it's just a turd color and they love it. And it makes no sense. It's so dumb.
I guess I have a two-part answer. One of my least favorite things in musky fishing is one of you two starting to run your mouth and tell me what bait to throw on. That'd probably be one.
That's me. I'll take the hit. That's just me all day. Well, actually, no.
I'll have a pretty looking bait in my head, and then it's like, hey, why don't you throw this? I'm like, God.
Just talk shit whenever you grab something. It motivates you, keeps you on your toes. Yeah.
But no, my second part would be unloading the boat after a long day.
You don't do anything.
Oh God!
Were you like waiting for me to say that?
No.
Teeing me up.
No, usually it'd be when the boat's getting loaded. I don't do it. We're hucking the football, but when we're unloading, I don't know if anybody else is doing anything.
Oh my God.
That was a great question, Poorly Made. Thank you for that.
Boy,
Clayton, what do you got?
Yeah, I've accumulated a whole list of things. The more you guys talk, the more things I dislike about musky fishing.
Yeah, there actually are. I'm starting to think of a few more as well.
Let's be careful here. Let's be careful.
No, I would say mine. Well, number one, probably an obvious one, would be losing a fish in a tournament.
You don't have any experience with that though.
No. Oh, gee, there's crumbs. Man,
That's the worst.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Watching that PMTT video you put together of all the lost fish was like, I didn't know whether to laugh.
I didn't even put that together. They did.
Oh,
I was getting really mad when I started watching. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like they're just gonna show a bunch of fish that we lost? They really do hate us." Oh, jeepers. Yeah, that was tough. But let's see there were a couple others. I've drawn a blank now. I don't think it's just in musky fishing. I think it's maybe with everything, but I don't like all the people that think that their way of doing stuff is the only way and everybody else is an idiot and has to bash on somebody, or if somebody shows a picture of a fish, hey, you're not holding that right, or maybe they've never caught a muskie before and aren't holding it quite right, or somebody's always doing something better than the next person, or if you could just positive vibes, right? And
baby.
Yeah.
Everybody's a pro behind their keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's annoying, but I don't think that's just with musky fishing. I think that's with everything.
Yeah. Musky fishing specific, I think if tournaments have taught us anything, there truly is no one hard, fast way to catch these things. I mean, every time you get back from a day in a tournament, it's never the case where everyone who caught fish is doing the same thing. Never, ever. So just goes to show that, like we're talking about finding fish in November, pushed up shallow. You ask anybody what they tip, a guy that's been doing it for a long time. Hey, where do you find them in the fall? Steep breaks, rocks. And sure, yeah, obviously you're going to find them there, but you could also find them wherever, and you just never know. You see a guy throwing a bucktail in November and you might snicker at him. And then next thing you know, he catches a 47 incher and you're like, damn, so there's just no one way to do it. But yeah, that's an interesting question because you don't typically think of what your least favorite things are when you're out there fishing. I mean, you're trying to focus on the positives, although I know sometimes Brian and I can get a little bit scrappy with Gus on a long day.
I just keep the crew together. I'm the glue guy.
Yeah.
You know what else really ticks me off is my tournament partner Nicholas Hammer. Shout out Hammer. When he starts complaining because he's in such a slump, even though he just caught a fish 30 minutes ago, and then he catches another one as soon as he starts complaining, that really ticks me off.
He only catches them when he complains.
He pretty much only. Yep. So he's always complaining now on the boat, which super annoying. I hope he's listening to this.
I hope so too.
Yeah, that is tough. I know we can get on Gus's nerves a little bit. We'll probably fall into Nick's category at times. Brian and I get a little bit you get a little spot happy, things aren't happening, and you get three opinions going on what we think we should be doing to change.
We all
things
turn
up,
into a
and,
pro in our own head.
and I think it always works out in the end in some way, shape, or form once a fish hits the bag. Everyone's happy no matter whose idea it was or who called the shot or called the spot. And I think looking back, like I'm sure Clayton, you've had times too where, looking back, like Brian has made some of the best calls, just out on weekends or in tournaments out of the blue for how much shit we give him for always saying, we should go here, we should go there. I mean, Gus, had a really good place in the National Muskie Open 2 years ago. And it all started on a spot that we were driving by, and Brian was like, hey, let's go fish there. And we had no game plan to fish that spot. We had nothing going on and ended up catching a really nice fish.
Yeah.
And
Is that the one that he raised on a spoon too?
yeah, it was the one he raised on a spoon, throwing
Yeah,
a spoon.
no, this is the exact scenario.
In
It's one of those
August.
again where it's like, why are you throwing the spoon? And it's just like, just wait.
And you raised the fish, you got the apple on it, you raised it, Gus caught it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Assist.
Well, that happened the morning before.
Yeah.
We both did it.
Yeah, that's true. Then the morning before, Gus could actually, well, I don't think you would have changed your place, but the morning before, like 15 minutes into the tournament, Gus raised one and Brian started doing a figure eight and it came up and smashed Brian's bait. And the funny part about that is it's an individual tournament. So
Hey,
Man,
goes around,
all
comes
the-
around.
Yeah, all these stories of Brian pulling it through and getting the big one and stuff. It really amazes me that you guys didn't do well in the PMCC. Not to bring that back up again or anything, but I don't think you give him enough credit. That guy.
oh, we definitely don't. There's no, yeah, we definitely don't. I agree. I still, you know what, but you know how it goes. Like I definitely want to do, whether it's Gus or myself, we want to fish with Brian in another tournament because I just see it happening where, we've had so many weekends where Brian pulls out the big fish or calls the spot and we end up catching a big fish there that, yeah, you would think in that PMCC tournament that something would have happened, but yeah, not to like
I've been
rehash the
there.
whole thing where
Yeah.
it just seems like you are on spots where there's fish and then they just don't show up. You're like, what the hell is going on? Like it just doesn't really compute.
It'll happen.
All right. This question comes from Jack, our buddy Jack. He asks, what's the freakiest thing y'all ever did with yo?
Jesus.
Yes, that again.
He's asked that like 8 times. This is the first time we're ever saying it.
All right, we'll move on from that one. I'm sure that'll just get bleeped out. Thanks for the question, Jack. Appreciate you.
Shout out.
Moving on to a little bit more common musky questions here. Matt Vavrock, just had him on the pod. Shout out, Matt. Go check out his
Shout out.
YouTube channel. I'm sure everyone heard that episode last week. That was a lot of fun. Basic question here, but I feel like it's going to take some thought because I'm sitting here looking at it and I don't know what I'm going to say. And I don't want to go first here. But he asks, what do you like throwing better, bucktails or rubber?
Whew. I like throwing rubber.
I think I'm going to
But-
say rubber too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut in.
No, well, that's fine. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like the harder I work for a fish, the more my chances are of catching one. But catching fish in the 8 on blades is super amazing. But I do love throwing rubber more than anything.
I'll jump in here because I think I want to just play off that because you hit the nail on the head for me. I love the hits on rubber more, but just for argument's sake, I think I'm going to go bucktail because of the chance of catching it in the 8. And I think it's probably what got me totally addicted to musky fishing is actually having a 40+ inch class fish come up and fly around in the 8 a few times and T-bone it, or you're actually like interacting with the fish and it gets to a point. Cause like Rubber, you have to work hard and you have to get them to eat out on the cast. And that kind of goes into like how good you are, working rubber baits. But like when you get a fish into the 8 on a bucktail, it kind of goes back to like you do have to perform well in the heat of the moment, staring at the fish, whether you're just out with your buddies or in a tournament. It's one of the more high intensity few seconds where this fish is right there. You're trying to do everything you can to get it to eat. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, it's like pure total chaos. So I'd probably go bucktails just for the sole fact of having that chance of getting one, especially a big one up in the 8, flying around and getting it to eat right on the boat side.
Yeah, I would say rubber, unless I get to a point where I haven't caught anything, my arms start getting tired, then there's nothing better than a bucktail. That's my simple answer.
So you just whatever's easier.
No, there's nothing easy about rubber. But I mean, this old back doesn't hunt like it used to, so I got to switch it up.
You're 24.
You need to find some like workout regimens in the weight room to work on that. Like there's got to be something where you're pulling, on some weights, with a handle so you can practice ripping. So you're
he definitely needs to get in the weight room. That's for sure.
So you sound like you're trying to throw hands this weekend now.
I mean,
I know you guys will.
Is what it is. Gus, what about you?
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut in with Clayton, but yeah, I just wanted to agree right away. Rubber for me, definitely the more you guys were talking about it with the bucktails and the figure 8, that's definitely the best part. I mean, getting a fish to eat a bucktail out in the cast is, a bonus. More times than not, you get them in the 8 more than most lures. And just, I gotta say, rubber takes the cake for me. The bites are more times super, super heavy, and they hit really hard. And especially if it's a larger fish and you set back into it and it doesn't move like a refrigerator, that's the best. That's a feeling really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, can't disagree with you there. I will say, I think I learned everything about trying to catch a fish in the figure 8 from you, Gus, because I don't know how you learned how to do it, or if you're just came to you more naturally than it did for me. But when we started, I always wanted to, when the fish would come in on the 8 bucktail fishing, I'd always want to slow it down. And because you're just kind of like almost guiding the fish to eat, like you want to like, hand feed it almost. And watching you like really pull that bait away from the fish. And I've heard Clayton talk about it too, but it's like you're almost trying to get it to the point where you want them to eat at a certain spot. Not like, oh, I just want it to eat. It's like, I want it to eat here because, and I think that's where like you get the levels of musky fishing, with like Gus and Clayton are just a little bit more dialed in with that. Like, it's not even just getting it to eat in the 8. It's like, no, I want it to eat on this corner. Like, this is where I feel confident I can set the hook. I don't know if you guys have much to elaborate on that, or, if I'm just pumping your tires or whatever, but I've seen it firsthand. And I feel like I've been able to kind of learn from it and do a much better job over the last 2 years of getting fish to eat in the 8 because of that. And also just from hearing Clayton talk about it, it's like, no, you want to make that fish fire up, chase it, and then eat it at a certain spot. So I don't know if you guys can elaborate on that at all, or if there's anything there.
Yeah, I guess if I haven't caught a fish in a while, or like if we were struggling and if all of a sudden a fish comes in on the 8, I mean, ultimately, yes, let's get it to eat anytime. And you are always reading the fish's, or should be watching the fish's attitude and what fires them up more? Is it high, fast outside? Is it a corner? Do they chase it when you're down deep, boat side, which ideally they don't eat it down there because you have much less room to move the rod, through the water. It takes a lot more work. So there are places that are more ideal and you'd like them to eat in a certain spot, but I guess I'd just assume that they eat it unless we're really on a good blade bite and there's a lot of fish going and we're having all sorts of action. Then I am absolutely trying to keep the bait away from the fish until a certain point.
Yeah, it seems like there's
Brian?
some times that they, like weeks or maybe a day, where you get on a blade bite where they're almost too fired up and they're just trying to peck at it like a ton of times. And we've missed a lot of fish that are pecking at it as they're coming into the 8 or nipping it on the corner when it's like an uber hot fish that should have just inhaled the bait if maybe you gave it another turn or two to really decide on eating it or not. But this just popped in my head, and it's probably one of my favorite boat side bucktail eats is when you see it coming in and then you go into your first turn and it flares away. But it's one of those kicks away where you know that fish is hot, and then you just keep going in your big wide turn, and you almost purposely slow down a good bit in that turn, and then they just come up out of nowhere and smoke it. It's almost like they go quick hide and they come up and smoke it. That's probably the best eat.
Nice. All right. This is the last one.
Brian, were you gonna say anything?
No, I think you're seeing me flip my pen around.
Oh,
Sorry.
I thought you were like waving your hand,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, let me talk.
I got some.
Well,
good.
Brian's so good in the 8, he caught a blind fish this year in the 8. Not easy
Yeah.
to do.
Or was that last year?
That was this year.
That was last year on the flaptail in the 8.
Yeah, you caught 2 blind fish.
Oh, God.
Last 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you bring up the first one just so we would also mention that one that you caught too?
No, wasn't the intention.
Yeah, you catch fish. You know?
I got my first fish ever in the 8 after dark this year.
Really?
And
Did you have any idea?
If it weren't for live imaging, I would have, or 360, I would have never even been figure eighting. I knew it was out there. Like I saw it on the 360. I was just kind of working this break line, heading back to the landing. And so I'm like, oh, there's fish in front, and I'm kind of going along, and I had suckers down, and all of a sudden I like turn the live pole to the sucker, and the fish swims up to it, and it's sitting on it. So I'm like, oh, sweet. All right, it's going to eat the sucker, whatever. I put the rod down, I kind of got ready. I'm standing there watching it, and it leaves the sucker. I'm like, what the hell? And it was after dark, so I had like a double mag dog on, and I just took a little underhand flip out like 15 feet from the boat and landed it right where I assumed it was based on the direction it was swimming, and kind of gave it. I only had enough time to maybe do like 2 pulls, and then just started figure eighting. And I'm figure eighting, and I look over at the 360. I'm like, oh my God, it's like right here. And then I'm like figure eighting kind of haphazardly with one hand, and I turn the live pole real quick to where my bait is, and now I can see the fish following it on the live as I'm figure eighting. I'm like, this actually might work. And it seemed like an eternity, but probably 3 minutes of figure eighting, and that fish ate where I didn't want it to, directly down as deep as I could put the rod, boat side, because I knew it was down there, and it ate down there, and I just kind of lifted straight up as hard as I could, and then proceeded to just put bend up in the rod, and that thing had that bait choked like it wasn't going to get off. So
wow.
that
had to get the heart going a little bit.
Oh yeah, I had no idea how big it was, so I'm freaking out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
like a sweet eat.
We posted that video, but seeing the fish go around in the 8 on the live scope is so funny.
It's like, there it is. No, it's
Just
not.
charged around.
There it is. It's gone. There it is. Oh, it ate.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a funny video because we were so down bad after our trying to go after some big fish the day before. We went on some action water, and that was like 30 minutes into the day. It was like so awesome just to see a fish fired up flying around in the 8. And
Gus is like, what the hell? There's one on the trolling motor.
Yeah, he's looking at that just happened in later October with their dad. He was just bringing in, I just had it pointed at the trolling motor again, and he was just starting to figure 8 with a crankbait, and he was already doing a turn. And I'm like, Dad, there's a fish that just rose up out of the mud, like directly underneath you. Because he said he didn't have anything following him, and I'm like, just keep figure 8. And he's like, oh, okay. I don't see anything. Just one turn, and all of a sudden this thing just goes straight vertical on the bait from 12 feet
That's
below
sweet.
it. And I'm like, oh man, these fish really, yeah, once they're fired up, they don't care about going vertical on baits. But
Yeah.
That's
No, they do
when
not.
that happens.
all right, last question on my end. And then we'll move on to some I know, Gus, that you got as well. This one comes from Springy Tackle, our guys from Springy Tackle, who actually makes his own custom bucktails. Makes some really nice stuff. I think he's out of the Fox Cities, right, Gus?
Yeah, Micah.
So Micah makes some awesome bucktails, Springy Tackle. That's just his Instagram handle. If you guys want to go check him out, just a local bait maker. So I always like to support a guy like that making some really good stuff from our, hometown and where we grew up. So very cool. He asks, if you could fish with anyone in the muskie community for a day, who would it be and why?
Clayton Spiess.
That's your answer? Or you want me to answer?
Yeah. Now you're up.
Who wants to take this one first?
Ooh.
I'll go. I'd like to fish with Doug Wagner sometime. I think that'd be pretty amazing. Just I don't know. I followed him since he started with the YouTube channel, been watching his stuff, and I've talked to him a few times, bought a couple rods from him, but I just think just be amazing just to watch him work in person and not just through video, and be pretty fun time. I feel like he's always on big fish. So
yeah, he catches a few fish.
he does.
Gets lucky here and there.
Yeah, it seems like he knows what he's doing.
I want to go quick before Max or Gus. I feel like one of you was thinking this, but I would say get out with Keys on the boat, because we've been watching his videos for years and years, and we just love his content. So seems like a hilarious guy. That'd be pretty fun.
Man, he is so much fun to party with too. He is awesome.
Have you
dude.
fished with him or just partied?
I've never fished with him. I've only had some Jack Daniels with him at muskie shows.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So Keys gets after it on the water and off the water. We love
He
to hear
does.
that.
He's a great dude. Yep.
That's awesome. And that just made my night hearing that. He leans into the muskies on tap as I'm sitting here with my Castle Danger cream ale out of Tua Harbors. Shout out Castle Danger. Make a damn good beer for being from Minnesota.
Damn.
Not bad.
All right. Gus, do you have somebody? I'm still thinking because I'm kind of going between a few different people.
I don't know.
All right. So I'm just gonna go with the first guy that came to mind. I kind of want to go up and fish with them boys up in Bemidji. Go out with Alex McLean and his buddy Tyler Slabs. That just posted a picture catching a 50-pounder. It was like 50-pounder equals season done. I mean, what the hell? God damn, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys, just feel like they're consistently, at least this summer since I've started following them, catch a lot of fish, and they catch some freakishly large Minnesota fish. They just have that deal kind of dialed in. And we had Alex on the podcast pretty early on. He was nice enough to come on, and talk some shop with us. But yeah, I mean, since following him, like those guys just really seem to have the Minnesota thing dialed. And I think after Vermilion, I kind of have this itch to explore the Minnesota deal a little bit more, just with seeing some of the size fish and it really just being right in my backyard for the foreseeable future. I'm driving damn near 4.5 hours every weekend to go fish Vilas County, which I love. But it wouldn't be a bad deal to switch it up, and I can drive less time and get up to Bemidji and fish some of those waters. So yeah, I shout out Alex and Tyler up there for putting some big ass fish in the net, and it'd be fun to get an idea on how they're doing that up there. If they're doing stuff differently, it sounds like they're always kind of switching it up. And I always appreciate hearing about guys that are kind of doing that, chasing some new stuff. And clearly they found success in it. And I mean, that one night they had where they both caught fish over 53 inches or something like that. I mean,
yeah,
what the hell is that?
Yeah, absolutely crazy.
I mean, sounds like quite the story. Next time we have him on, we'll have to kind of get some more details on that, because it sounded like that was a pretty fun night for them.
So now that I've had a minute to think about it, I was kind of trying to like branch out and go somewhere way out of the state, but I couldn't really think of anything. So I think I'm going to keep it back home here and to learn a lot more about the area up here. And I've only ever heard great things about this guy, and I've never personally met him, but I'd really like to get out in the boat with Russ Smith from Smitty Baits. Would be really cool with all of the knowledge that he has, and he's still out there fishing and catching really nice fish of this whole Vilas Oneida, just the whole northern Wisconsin, and have a day out. And I mean, I wouldn't even be paying attention to my bait. I would just be asking him questions the whole time about how it was back in the day. I know that's like cliche to ask, you know, a guy who's been there, done that for a really long time in an industry, but I would really like to know.
That'd be a good choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think picking somebody that's had some history up here in northern Wisconsin would be really interesting. I mean, obviously, another nominee for me would be JVR, but I feel like I mean, we haven't fished with them, but I almost feel like I have after talking with them so much and being a part of the Musky Academy deal. You know, him giving out those nuggets all the time. But I mean, yeah, he'd be another guy I'd love to get out on the boat with just to watch how he works baits more than anything. I'm really curious to kind of hear, like, I would love to watch him work a Suic. Like, I know he just crushes fish on Suics and on Medusas, and I'd love to see how he works those two baits in northern Wisconsin, because it sounds like those are just been a consistent producer for him. And as we all know, I mean, sometimes it is you know, the Indian and not the arrow on how guys work lures. And, you know, just be curious to see how he's able to do it. So that wraps it up for me, Gus. What questions do we got from you?
Sure. I'm gonna bring it out with another. He sent in two, another poorly made musky memes. Sent in a question. Shout out. This could be for all of us, but I think it might be back directed towards you, Brian.
Yeah.
What is your preferred fall sleepwear? Plaid flannels or a Canadian tuxedo? Plaid flannels or a Canadian tuxedo? I'm gonna go.
How do you get them Z's?
I'm gonna definitely do plaid flannels. I mean, they're cozy. Brian, what you got?
Canadian tuxedo, poorly made. I feel like I just need to get it over with, get a full denim fit, send them a pic.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys want to answer that, Max or Clayton, but
man, both of them sound horrible. I sleep warm. Like,
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah.
I know. I was joking on my answer. I don't
know.
sleep with all that stuff.
Freaking poorly. Oh, good stuff.
All right. So we got one from CJ Scott. Shout out. Just was in the boat with them recently. And he asked a good one here on, would you rather catch 340s or 146 on a day trip?
Wow.
340s.
Yeah, 340s.
I'm going with the 46, but I'm definitely curious on why you guys chose. I think I was between the two.
Brian's just trying to feel something.
We just, we talked about it on the boat a little bit, and my reasoning on if I did pick I don't know, I won't say because I don't want to steal somebody's answer because that wasn't my answer. I picked 46. So if somebody
elaborate, you're good. Explain.
I was just gonna say, like, if it was 340s, if that's what I was gonna pick, it might seem like more dialed that day. You got 3 fish to convert, but to me, I just getting that one big bite, I think is the ticket. You know, that's what I would kind of prefer in that situation.
I would agree, but for me, I feel like it wouldn't be 46. I would say at 48, I would not take the 340s. Just, I mean, that'd be my PB as well, and obviously a 4-footer, but I would like a consistent day of action with 340s.
So is 48 the cutoff for Clayton's nodding his head? What do you think? 340s, and then what's the cutoff for the single fish that you'd rather have? It'd be 48 for you, Ryan?
48 plus.
Yeah.
We actually changed the question. He originally had it at 340s or 45, and my answer was still 45.
Wow.
Yeah. I
Boy,
don't know.
dying for a big fish.
So
Boy, starving.
if you brought the size of the 3 fish down under 40, I might change my answer, but
Yeah.
I feel like once a fish gets to like 40, they just fight so much better and are so much stronger. And respect to any, muskie over 40 inches, they'll take you for a ride once in a while. And I would totally catch 3 over a 46. Now, if we got up to, like Brian said, 48 plus, I might reconsider that, just because the 4-footers and above for us come a lot fewer, farther between. 46s still are, not a lot of them, but caught quite a few of them, and they fight similar to a 40 in my opinion. Maybe, probably a little bit more, but 340s, you can have a lot of fun with them. So I would stick with that in that regards.
I think what Gus said about being dialed makes sense to me, because it's like he talked to somebody and how their day was, and they catch 3 fish in northern Wisconsin over 40 inches, or 340s for that matter. That's a that's a damn good day in the boat. I will say, though, like the idea, catching a fish over 45 inches, I think I would probably lean to what Gus said, just because it's so few and far between to catch that mid to upper 40s fish in northern Wisconsin, that you might get, depending on how often you fish and the caliber of angler you are. But for a guy like myself in northern Wisconsin who gets up when he can, I mean, I might get, I don't know how many shots a year at a 46 plus inch fish, that I probably would take the one bigger fish, just because looking back on my summer and everything, like it was made by the few big fish that I caught. Like I would say this year was super successful. I caught a lot of fish around that, 38 to 40 inch mark, but my year was great because of the few big ones that I caught. Like those are the ones that I'll kind of look back on, the pictures, the stories, whatever. So I'd probably go with the 46, but not by much. Like it'd be just a slight answer, like over the 340s, because that'd be a good day. I would definitely like to catch 340-inch fish in a day. That'd be great.
Even split. I was worried when he asked this originally that it would maybe be lopsided, but I'm glad we made it that it was more of like an even split, because that was a very tough question to kind of think about what the answer would be. But so the last two came from the same user. Both are pretty short questions. Comes from Kyle Kramer, asking your go-to bucktail rod. Clayton, do you want to maybe say what your go-to bucktail rod is?
That varies depending on the size of bucktail I'm using. And well, even used to be like the type of water that I'm fishing too, but my go-to was a 9-foot heavy Legend Extreme, St. Croix Legend Extreme, and that would be for, I'll use that anything up to double eights, and then from double eights sometimes and definitely above that, I have a 10-foot Thorn Brothers extra heavy. And I've actually, after using it as much as I have on the second half of the year this year, I even find myself grabbing that for some of the smaller bucktails, even though it is a little bit too much rod for those smaller blades. But I would say between the 9-foot heavy for the smaller half of the bucktails, and then a 10-foot extra heavy for the larger half of bucktails.
Yeah, for sure. I think pretty much majority of the year I was running a 9.6 heavy Legend tournament, and that thing was pretty awesome. It's a heavy, and it could handle double 10s just fine, that I found. If you started using anything bigger, or a double 10s that were extra heavy, or maybe like a Spanky double 10 or something like that was, heavy wire and blades, like going to an X heavy definitely seemed to be better, because you want to be able to get wide 8s and not have your whole tip of the rod flexing like crazy from a big blade. That's just more work on your body, and throughout the course of a day doing countless figure eights, that's just more unnecessary fatigue. So definitely tools for the job for sure. Yeah, definitely the 10-foot seems to be pretty darn good for big blades. And if you're and it also helps you're up in a fiberglass boat now a little bit. So I've noticed, I remember fishing out of your Triton, I was just like a little bit higher up than what I was used to. So when I was using like a 9 or 9.6, it even felt like I could have used a little more rod in hand.
Yeah. And, and I guess I just want to, comment for anybody listening that, can't necessarily afford some of these rods or something. And, you can't, maybe you have a hard time hauling longer rods or something in your boat or vehicle or whatever you can get your hands on. You asked me this question 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I remember when an 8-foot heavy rod first came out, and that thing was the cat's, for, catching fish, and was just absolutely incredible. And, you can catch fish on, anything, that whatever you have at your disposal. The longer seems to be the better for, better figure eights, better leverage, hookups and stuff. But man, we caught a pile of fish on 8-foot, 8.5-foot rods before we could even get our hands on these longer rods. It's just, I guess, stupid musky fishermen like me just got to buy the latest and greatest and keep getting bigger, badder, and I'll spend whatever, to try something new. And if that's not in the budget, I wouldn't let it deter you or get upset, because, man, I caught all kinds of fish on shorter rods before these longer ones were available to me.
Okay, you brought up something interesting, because I'm curious about this. When you were throwing that 8-foot, did you ever think that you'd ever be throwing a 10-foot rod?
No. When I first got my first 8-footer, I was like, there's no way they're ever going to make a longer rod. This thing is so much bigger and badder than a 7.5-footer or 7.4 or whatever. I was like, why in the world would anybody get anything bigger than that? And then even when they came out with an 8.5-footer, I was like, that's just dumb. Like, that's too long. People aren't going to use that. That's going to fade into oblivion. It'll be hot for a couple months, and then everyone's gonna be like, wow, that's way too much rod. We're going back to the 8-footers, until I got one of myself and then was quickly converted. But yeah, I usually am stubborn to some of these longer rods to begin with, and I got to watch other people use them before I think about trying it myself.
That's how I am with a 10-footer. I'm just like, it's too much rod. It's got to get in the way or something. And probably going to have an 11-footer next year.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that was going to be my follow-up question, is like, where does it go from here? Does it go anywhere? I mean, have we maxed out on the length of rods for musky fishing? Like, does it come to a point of diminishing returns where, okay, we don't need to go to a 10.6 or an 11-foot rod because, like, we're not shark fishing, and you are
figure-eighting halfway in your cast,
still trying to enjoy the fight. I mean, I was throwing Jack's 10-foot Thornbros over Bender weekend a few weeks back, and like, under the right circumstances and right lure choice, I could see how it would be dominant and it'd be a great tool. But God, man, that thing is just a lot. It just, it changes everything from mechanics of how you're working baits, and it's just a long ways away from, your real handle to the tip of that rod. Just, so yeah, I don't know.
There aren't many, in my opinion, there aren't many uses for a rod 10-foot and above, besides maybe bucktails. I mean, I have a 10-foot extra heavy for big rubber, but you can't pop it like you can a shorter rod. If so I would never use that in the summertime when I'm really blasting rubber, through the weeds or anything, just because you can't get that action. The rod's too long.
Yep.
And I'm fairly short at coming in at a whopping 5'9". Sometimes the 10-foot rod is even a little bit much for me, for figure eights. Now it's better now that I have a taller boat, actually, because I'm a little further out of the water. But in the back of my bass boat, when I'm really close to the water, or even the front, I thought that the 10-foot was a little bit too much rod for me being as short as I am. I just going down in the figure eight, I couldn't keep my rod up high enough at times when we're fishing ultra shallow, and found it to be a little bit of an inconvenience. But so I'm pretty much stuck at the 10-foot. I don't think I'm even gonna. I might try somebody's a little bit longer, but I don't foresee the need for it. I haven't had a fish come in on the figure eight that I haven't been able to swing wide enough that it could turn on it and continue chasing it, where I'm worried about cutting a fish off.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think feel like we've probably hit that max on equipment. I mean, obviously they'll probably tweak stuff and, make it better. It's like the golf industry. It's like throw a new paint job on it, say it's a little bit lighter, say, you're going to get more whatever out of the rod. But yeah, it feels like a long shot that there's going to be this like revolutionary new thing in the rod and reel combo to come out in the next few years. But again, I could be completely wrong. I don't know what would be next. That would go from, I think the only way you could really have anything is like reel assistance or something, which at that point I'm,
Adjustable gear ratio.
Yeah, maybe something of that
Wow.
nature.
Something more to break.
Brian just
Seriously.
came up with $1 million idea.
You better trademark that real quick.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, before we get too lost in the sauce here, Kyle Kramer got another one, and he's asking our go-to trolling bait for Vilas County lakes. I think I'm just gonna go with the depth raider because that thing is an all-around spring and fall trolling beast for me. I don't do a lot of trolling in the summer, but spring and fall, typically trolling a little bit slower, and those jointed depth raiders seem to really shine at slower speeds.
Regular or baby?
If I had to choose one, oh,
Would you say baby in the spring?
Because-
regular in the fall?
yeah,
And I say that because my first two thoughts in my head were 22 short or 22 long. And
right.
I don't, if I had to break them up between the two.
I think if
But
I had to
they-
use only one for spring and fall, I'd honestly say maybe the baby. I haven't really run it at all this fall, but I feel like on the days like the larger one gets hit, the baby depth raider probably could get hit too, just
Yeah.
as easily.
That's a tough. I'm gonna have to say just a 22 long.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, right now, though it hasn't been great lately.
Yeah, those are nice. Those are really cool looking baits. So those guys do a good job. And yeah, obviously the depth raider is pretty classic. There's probably not too many muskies in Vilas County that haven't seen a depth raider at this point.
But
But
still eat them.
Nope.
still
Still eat 'em.
I mean, we got one of the listeners who we'll talk about a little later on here. They sent me a picture of, depth raider, big fish. It still works. It's just tale as old as time up here. That's for sure.
Yep.
All right, I think that's it from the Q&A from the users. So just want to thank all of the people out there that sent in the questions. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed talking through those, especially having you, Clayton, on, getting some insight into some of those. I definitely learned a few things tonight for sure, especially with that late fall egg weight with the female muskies. That was just something that maybe I never read about or I overlooked or just went over my head or something, but that's definitely the case on why those fish get extra fat like very, very quickly from, it seems like, September to November.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's transition to a little quick close here. And before we get into some of the housekeeping items, I do want to shout out our few listeners. We had our buddy Dwayne Wedler Jr. Right into the podcast, and his guy, our guy, Kyle Scruggs, got engaged this weekend, rocking the Muskies on Tap hoodie.
Shout out.
So
Shout out.
congrats to him. They bagged a mid-40s super tanker and got engaged. Kyle got engaged all in the same, looks like, weekend. Sure, they partied pretty good, but it was pretty sweet to see see him rocking the Muskies on Tap sweatshirt, getting the knee dirty. So love to see that. Had some buddies from Denver send me a selfie of them. They just got their sweatshirts in. They were both rocking them tonight watching the football game. So the Mott crew hoodies have made it all the way out to Colorado, which we love to hear. So yeah, Gus, we probably still got a few left from what it sounds like, but I think they're kind of getting between few and far between as for what's left.
Yeah. There's a few sizes that are out of stock. And the gray, I know there's a little more out of stock in the gray hoodie, and still some pint glasses left if you want to get your hands on those. As for the storefront future on the merch, there's definitely something in the works here of maybe doing potentially like a smaller icon logo. I'm also working on a logo myself as well for Suggs Fishing, getting that in the works.
Maybe some new brims.
I think that would be pretty good. I was also thinking of sun hoodies. Summer like solar flex with hoods.
That's what we need.
Now you're talking.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You guys need some team jerseys for PMTT next year.
We do. That'd be legit.
Yeah, put your names on the back.
Yeah, I know you got one, don't you? You have one that you got the name on the back.
Well, that was from the tournament, though, right?
That hoodie, that sweatshirt I got from that tournament. Yeah, but I think we're actually gonna have some shirts made this year and get our sponsors on there and stuff because
for you and Hammer.
They make it happen for us.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Yeah, looking forward to another season. That video that you put out, a little hype video. Before we sign off here, I kind of wanted to ask you what's in the works for your YouTube channel coming up here, because you can tell the people, I guess, that I don't need to. What you just released seemed like kind of a hype video for the PMTT stuff. So what's the plan on what you're gonna do for video stuff this winter?
Yeah, that was just gonna be like a little preview to each. So we got enough footage this year for video for each individual qualifier and the championship, which is pretty sweet. This will be the first time I'll be able to break it up into individual ones. But I just kind of threw together a quick little hype thing just to kind of get pumped up about it. And based on my time, I wanted to get something on YouTube. It's been a while. So we got that. I do have a lot of stuff to go through this year. Was a good year. Obviously, I was on the water a lot more with guiding and stuff. So we got some guiding footage. Canada, I'm going to break that down. We had an epic Canada trip this year. We got 27 muskies in a week in our boat, and all but 8 were over 45.
Jeez. God damn.
Should make a decent video.
Oh man, I am so excited to go through that stuff. And we'll be able to do an episode a day. It'll be kind of like a Doug Wagner week on the woods. Don't want to steal that from him, but we'll be able to get something together for every day that we were up there, because first time ever we were able to catch a fish every single day we were there. So that was pretty epic.
Really.
Where can people find that this winter when you start putting it out?
I'll be putting it the links on my Facebook page for myself, Clayton Spiess, and This'll Do Outdoor Adventures. Have a Facebook page, and then my Instagram has a link, and I'll throw up a picture or a little clip or something every time I release a video on my personal Instagram page, Clayton Spiess, and then my YouTube channel is This'll Do Outdoor Adventures. I think you can find it under my name as well. And I'm not trying to go big or anything with it. All I'm doing, these videos aren't anything professional by any means. It's just kind of showing my friends and family, some of the action and memories for me to make it easier for me to remember as I get older. I start forgetting stuff.
That's awesome.
Just something to keep me busy. And then the long nights of winter up here,
Yeah, we're approaching it. It's definitely right around the corner. I mean, yeah, I like the footage you guys have from like the head mounts was definitely inspiring to Gus and I to do that more during the PMTT stuff. Just with, I think we have a lot of good footage from our PMTT this year, but that head mount is certainly just such a game changer with like actually getting a, point of view type shot on what's going on. You can probably feel and look, see, I guess, the intensity of it a little bit better, up close. Especially after Gus and I's mishap with our last fish in the championship where the whole camera mount came off. So
Yeah, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to take down the whole thing next time.
yeah, that's true. So yeah, we invested in those. Ben Stone kind of got us pointed in the right direction, and we've already seen it pay off huge dividends with some really cool footage. So
yeah, I've seen some of your stuff already. It definitely an improvement in my opinion. I just love the view of a head camera. If you can handle the headache and it pushing down on, on your nose and when you're wearing sunglasses and stuff, I mean, it can be quite uncomfortable, but man, the footage you get from it is just second to none in my opinion. I mean,
yeah, thanks for inspiring us. And yeah, shout out to Ben Stone again. I think we pretty much ordered that as soon as we got done doing the podcast with him. It was just all like brought together. We're just like, all right, we need to do this.
I remember you said like at the end of that pod, you're like, yeah, I'm going on Amazon tonight.
I did.
I think you were on it already during the pod. You said you're like, I'm looking it up right now. I think we're gonna purchase this.
So guys, I mean, the next time we get on, it'll be after our last send together as a podcast. Hopefully Clayton is around the next few weekends and we're able to get out on the water with him as well. But kind of just talking about what we got going on. I mean, what's the excitement? What's the plan? Are we going to do some filming, Gus? What are you thinking, Brian?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we got B-roll God, we got head cams. We pretty much have a banger vid already in the making.
Yeah.
Now we just need to catch the fish.
Those words have never been said before.
Which one's B-roll God? I think
no, just putting together a video.
Yeah. We'll buckle it down this weekend and catch a fish, couple fish, few fish, and we'll get a video out there.
Well, that leads me to my next point, Brian, because you knew it was coming. What's your expectations this weekend? What's Vegas setting the line at for amount of fish caught and biggest? We have yet to go 2 for 2 on this. So we've pretty much, I think we've split every single time. It's either been under the amount of fish or over the amount of fish, or under the biggest or over it.
I think I'm gonna set the over betters up for success here. 1.5 is the line, and over under 44.
I remember the lakes for fishing. I like the size limit.
What, you want me to do 0.5? Come on, I gotta have more confidence in that.
I like it. Thank you, Vegas. Thank you.
Give me the first parlay those. Give me first 2-0 sweep.
All right. So Brian, so are we going after the trophy, it sounds like then? Just hitting some big boy water?
Yeah, I'm game for that. After our last musky bender, I was like, if we're gonna struggle with these little fish, so let's just get on big water, big fish water, and just grind it out. Especially with the monster swimming dog. I'm all in for that.
We're gonna have you hucking that thing around the whole time.
I'm doing it.
All right. Well, you guys will have to tune in next week to kind of hear how this weekend goes. We'll be swinging for the fences. We'll probably be throwing some stories up and stuff on the Instagram. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. You get some good good content.
New boot goofing videos.
Got everything you need. So yeah, looking forward to getting out on the water. I've been kind of going stir crazy here in the cities. So looking forward to getting outside, looking forward to get on the boat with you fools. Should be fun.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it as well. And while we wrap this up, I just want to say thank you, Clayton, for coming on the podcast, being your third time, basically a residential guest. And I know we'll be having you again shortly for sure, right after the season's done, which is kind of coming to a close here, probably looking like the last 2 or so weeks. Hopefully we can get past Thanksgiving, but we will see. So thank you for coming on, Clayton.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again for having me. I enjoy talking muskies anytime.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Gus, let's real quick, Clayton, you plugged your YouTube stuff. And it sounds like it kind of runs in parallel with your guide business, but for anybody looking for booking 2024 stuff, have you kind of opened that up yet, or are you waiting for the PMTT schedule to fully come out?
Yeah, I've taken a couple bookings already for next year. Kind of just if people are wanting to go around those times that the PMTT usually is, I'm kind of saying, hey, don't book your, if you're coming up on a certain weekend, I can't guarantee it yet, try and keep things in limbo, and I'll let them know as soon as possible. But I haven't had any yet that weren't flexible or anything to where I could book around them. But you can get a hold of me on my phone, 715-891-1046, or find me on Facebook or Instagram and shoot me a message or something. So
Perfect. Speaking of the PMTT, real quick, before Gus gives out his info, just want your gut reaction. Championship in Eagle River next year. What are your thoughts? Got to get there first, but what's your thoughts on that?
If we get there, I think it's going to be super fun. Low number of boats, 30 to 50 boats or whatever. Eagle River only. That's prime time. It's going to be a shootout unless something crazy with weather or something happens. It should be a big time numbers thing for even with that small amount of boats. Those guys that are going to make it there will probably, have enough knowledge. They'll be able to find some fish. I think I wouldn't be surprised if every boat, can find their way into the final day. That wouldn't surprise me. It could be that good, but we'll see.
I mean, Chip obviously killed it this year. I mean, we got some good weather and the fish were eating for a vast majority of the people. But yeah, man, that time of year on the Eagle River chain can be really lights out. And with that amount of good sticks on the water, I'll be very curious. They might have to bump the size limit up to like 34 or something, because that's going to be nutty on how many fish I feel like are going to be caught that weekend.
Yeah. As long as I think, it was supposed to be like Wounded Warriors that weekend. I think Scott Samuels is going to move that to accommodate for the championship, which is kind of nice. So, I would hate to be pulling fish in front of any vets out there. And not to mention I've been asked to do it before too. So if I could actually maybe take a vet out, that would be pretty incredible. And wanting to do that, but we're always in the championship. Shucks.
Casual flex.
No, except for last year. Last year we didn't make it, so I can't say that every time. But yeah.
Well, let's hope we can keep that going next year. I'm sure we'll talk about that at probably a nauseating extent over the winter and over next year. So we'll cap that for tonight. We still have to do our full PMTT recap with everybody. Get Jeremy and Trevor on here this winter.
Oh yeah.
So if anyone's looking for some more tournament fishing content, that should be a very fun night.
That'll be an entertaining one for sure.
I'm leaving that one unedited.
No, boy,
that's the only way to do it.
Danger.
No, I mean, I'll chop it up a little bit, but I'll put a warning out in advance.
Good stuff. All right, Gus, you want to send us away here some details, and then I guess let Brian for the final.
Yep, Brian will take the final, but before we sign off here, you can find any of the Mott hoodies and stuff and all of my guiding info at www.sugsfishing.com. SUGS fishing. And I'm also as Suggs Fishing on Instagram and Suggs Fishing Guide Service on Facebook. Then same with just looking up my name for Facebook as well. And phone number is 920-264-3816. If you're hearing this in time and I don't have them maybe booked, I will have just a few days open since the weather is keeping all these lakes open. I have a few days open the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday leading up to Thanksgiving if anyone's looking to book. So those are the last open days. Otherwise, potentially just this morning was the final guide trip of the year for myself. And I think I'm just like Clayton, kind of waiting for the PMTT full schedule until I, announce when I'm going to start actually calendar date booking for 2024. So just stay tuned for that. And also, yeah, with the cool head cam mounts, starting to get already some pretty cool footage this fall. And I'm actually really excited to get out some of that footage. Although I'm serious about it this time.
I know.
This winter, I'm for sure serious. There's a lot more time at hand with the limited daylight hours anyways. So I'm already starting to upload a lot more, and I think I've already posted a trolling fish. So got more to come for there. So with that being said, Brian, want to take us away here?
All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening to this episode. Shout out to Clayton. Thank you for being so generous with your time tonight on this late Monday evening. Gentlemen, the end of the season is upon us. One more big swing at it, throwing the deep ball, Hail Mary as time expires. Hopefully that means big fish, and it will mean a sick video for everybody to watch. Hopefully that following week, guys, and stay tuned for that. Good luck to everybody else this weekend. Peace.